that constantly change over time. History changes when a man emerges called Cyrus the Great. Okay, Cyrus the Great is the founder of something called the Persian Achaemenid Empire. So last class we discussed Zoroastrianism. And Zoroastrianism is really the first great world religion because it provides a simple but powerful model of how the world works. And Zoroastrianism is powerful because it encourages everyone to be their best, right? To seek Asha. Now, for most people, what Asha means is don't ever lie, okay? And it is actually a really useful thing if you're trying to run an empire. Because when you run an empire, you need soldiers, you need generals, you need administrators, right? And if people don't lie, if people are honest and moral, well, you can expand really quickly, right? And so that's what Cyrus the Great did. Cyrus the Great is also known for his mercy and his generosity. So when he conquers a place, what he will do is he will identify the best people, maybe even the king himself, and make them advisors to his regime. Okay, he's known for his tolerance. He's known for his openness. And so what happens is that the Babylonian Empire basically surrendered to him without a fight. Why? Because of elite overproduction, right? You have this war going on between the upper nobility and the lower nobility, and they're like, you know what? Let's just invite Cyrus the Great, and then we don't have to fight each other anymore, okay? And that's how Cyrus the Great was able to build the first world empire, okay? This is Babylon, the fall of Babylon, and Cyrus the Great, there are different stories, but one story is that the elite basically invited him in order to resolve their inner conflicts with each other, okay? This is a tomb of Cyrus the Great. It's still in Iran today. There's a story that when Alexander the Great, who was Macedonian, when he went to conquer the Persian Empire, he discovered that the Cyrus the Great, his tomb was in bad repair. They didn't really maintain or upkeep it. So he ordered for it to be properly maintained, okay? That's probably, the story is by the way, probably false. But it shows you that at this time in history, about the year 300, 400, everyone, 300, 400 BCE, everyone was respectful of Cyrus the Great, okay? Cyrus the Great is considered the world's greatest king or emperor. Okay, so as you can see, the Achaemenid Persian Empire is huge, okay? It encompasses most of West Asia, okay? So it goes from Iran all the way to Mesopotamia, to Anatolia, to parts of Greece, and basically all of Egypt and Libya, okay? It's a huge area. And they were able to do this because of their innovations in religion as well as administration, okay? All right, so let me explain. How do you rule empires usually, okay? Well, the traditional way is you control trade routes and access, okay? So people have to pay you a tax to go through your trade routes. That's a traditional way. You can also use fear and conquest, and that's what the Assyrians were known for. They would come and they would kill everyone if you disobeyed them. You took hostages. That's a very common thing where you conquer people and you take the children of the king as hostages, okay? Intermarriage, religion. But what the Persians did really well that allowed for the Persian Empire to be so huge, as well as to be really well managed, are four things, okay? Effective administration. Again, when you have a religion, Zoroastrianism, where people can't lie, that's really good because these bureaucrats will now report real facts to the emperor, and that allows him to make better decisions, okay? Elite cooptation, meritocracy. And the idea here is that if you have a very effective administration, that allows for local elites to focus your energies on trying to join this administration as opposed to rebelling against you. Communication networks, okay? So things like roads, things like postal networks, okay? So the Persians create the first global postage system. And it was really effective where if you want to send mail from Egypt over to Mesopotamia, what would happen is you would have these royal roads where people would ride on horses and they could stop at basically a hostile, rest, and then keep on going, okay? And that way you can you can very quickly move information from one corner of the empire to the other. Okay? And the last is to divide and rule. Divide and rule is really important. So what they did was they basically had different power centers within a region. Okay, so you had the satraps, which were the local governors, but then you also had the you also had the bureaucrats. Okay, you also had the royal representatives. So these are different factions within a region. Okay, so divide and rule is probably the most effective way to control an empire. Okay. So now let's move on to Israel. Okay, we now know about the Persian Empire, how they managed their system and why they are so effective. Okay, now let's talk about Israel. So remember that we read the Bible, and the Bible came about because David needed to legitimize his rule. And after the Bronze Age collapsed, David created a Davidic kingdom in the Levant, because Egypt, Anatolia, Mesopotamia were preoccupied, right? But because the Levant is so important, this Davidic kingdom doesn't really last that long. It lasts for like 80 to 100 years, okay? After Solomon, David's son, dies, Israel is divided into two parts. The northern kingdom, which gets conquered by Assyria, as well as Judah, okay, Jerusalem, which tries to maintain the Davidic kingdom, but doesn't last very long. At this time in history, the Israelites are being pulled in different directions, okay? The Anatolians, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, because they are strategically very important. And so what's really hard for these empires is, how do we maintain control over Jerusalem? Okay, and they try different techniques. They try burning down their city centers, okay? So the northern kingdom was destroyed. You might have heard of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. They tried taking hostages, okay? But because this region is so volatile, nothing really works. And so the Jerusalem, the Israelites keep on rebelling. Okay? So this is the kingdom of Judah. And what happens is, for the longest time, the Babylonians are trying to deal with the Israelites, okay? So they take hostages. Okay, they take hostages, like thousands of them, and move them to Babylon, where they become scribes, where they become farmers, where they become merchants. Okay, but again, the region is so strategically important that Jerusalem, the Israelites, they switch loyalties all the time. Eventually, the Babylonians are so pissed off that they decide to burn down their temple. Okay, and so at this point in history, the Israelites are now gone. Okay, does that make sense? The Israelites are gone now. 587 to 6, we don't know when, but Babylonians destroyed Jerusalem because they cannot, they tried many techniques to try to control Jerusalem. They can't do it. The Israelites are too rebellious, but it's too strategically important, so they destroy. So they decide, you know what, screw this, we'll just destroy the city, okay? So when this happens, okay, this is really important to understand, the Israelites are gone. Okay? The people are still around, but the identity of the Israelites are now gone. 539, Cyrus the Great conquers Babylon, okay? And he says, I want the Israelites to return to Jerusalem. It's called the Edict of Cyrus, all right? And this is celebrated in the Bible. What is controversial is, why would he do such a thing, okay? Because again, the Israelites are now gone. The Israelites who went to Babylonia, they may still keep their religion a bit, but they no longer have their land. They have changed as a people, okay? So as an Israelite, you pray in the temple, but the temple is now destroyed, so now you pray in the synagogue, okay? So the people have changed a great deal. So the question now is, why would Cyrus the Great go to Babylon and say, you know what, I want you Israelites to return to Jerusalem. I want you to reconstitute the nation of Israel. Why would he do that? Okay, so this is going to be a debate that will never ever end, okay? So the Bible tells us that Cyrus the Great did this because God told him to do that. Really simple. God says, I love my people, the Israelites, send them home. Okay, and Cyrus the Great says, yes, of course, you're the great God, I'll do so, okay? Guys, that's not what happened, okay? All right, so there are different explanations. Maybe the idea is that Cyrus wants to show all the Persian Empire, I'm religiously tolerant. You can practice your religion, you can celebrate your religion. That's what the Persian Empire is, an open, tolerant, generous empire, okay? That's true. What's also true is that Cyrus found himself as a righteous and merciful king who wanted to be generous to everyone, okay? So he saw the Israelites want to home, he says, well, go home, okay? It's also possible that there's a faction within the Israelites who supported his Babylon takeover, okay? I don't know if this is true, it's probably not true, but we consider that as a possibility. That the Israelites in Babylon supported his takeover, and so to thank them, Cyrus said, fine, I'll give you back Jerusalem. Another possibility is that when Cyrus the Great conquered Babylon, he discovered that, you know what, these Israelites are really good administrators. And this is true throughout history because remember, the Israelites had their Bible, and their religion requires them to study the Bible. And as we discussed, the Bible is one of debate, openness, asking questions. And so these are very literate intellectuals. And they rise up very high in the Babylon administration. But this is true throughout history where Jewish people will rise very high in all empires, including the Islamic Empire, including the American Empire, okay? I think the best reason for what happened is divide and rule, okay? So the idea is that you need to control the Levant. Because the Levant gives you access to Egypt, which is historically the wealthiest part of the world, okay? Whoever controls Egypt controls the world. So what you do is you set up a group of people in the Levant that are only loyal to you. Okay, does that make sense? Okay? You set up people in the Levant that only exist because you, the empire, allow them to exist. If you, the empire, did not support them, then the locals, everyone in that region would get rid of them right away, okay? And that's why we have the Jews. So the Jews were invented by the Persians to control the Levant. The Jews is actually a Persian term, okay? So before the Jews were, of course, the Israelites. Now we have the Jews. All right, so this is Jerusalem. And as you can see, what's really important to understand is that this is actually only a really small part of the Levant. But this part is specifically for the Jews. And it's part of this Persian province called Beyond the River. Okay? And they call it the province of Yahu. That's why we have the term Jews. Okay? Because they are part of the province of Yahu. And what's really important to understand is they're surrounded by enemies. The Sumerians are Israelites who have stayed in the Levant. Okay, do you understand? So most people around them are in fact Israelites who adapted to local circumstances. And that means that they practice different religions. That also means that they married foreign women as well. But they still consider themselves as Israelites, okay? Right? Does that make sense, guys? So, what happens is that these exiles from Babylon, they come back and they say, no, we're the true Israelites. You guys are the false Israelites. The reason why we're true is we have stayed loyal to our religion. Okay? So what's going to happen over the next few decades is almost a civil war between Israelites who've stayed and Israelites who left but come back. All right? And this is what the Persian Empire wants in order to maintain stability in the Levant. Right? Because you have this small minority of exiles from Babylon who've come back and they're in conflict with everyone else. All right? This is divide and rule. Okay, so could you, sorry, let me, okay. So could you help me read the Bible, okay?
Okay.
All right, so we're going to read two books of the Bible. They're called Ezra and Nehemiah, okay? And these two books are really important. And they're not really discussed that often by scholars. But Ezra and Nehemiah shows us how Persia helped the Jews to reconstitute their nation, the process. And by studying these two books, it will give us insight into how current people in the nation of Israel think. And then we can analyze how they will behave moving forward, okay? All right, so can you read? This is the beginning of the book of Ezra, okay?
In the first year of King Cyrus of Persia, in order that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be accomplished, the Lord stirred up the spirit of King Cyrus of Persia, so that he sent a herald throughout all his kingdom, and also in a written edict declared.
Okay, so this is really important for us to understand, okay? According to the Bible, Cyrus is doing this because God told him to do this, okay? Not because of imperial ambitions or imperial strategy, it's just God told him to do this, okay? Keep on going.
Thus says King Cyrus of Persia, "The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has charged me to build him a house at Jerusalem in Judah. Any of those among you who are of his people, may their God be with them, are now permitted to go up to Jerusalem in Judah and rebuild the house of the Lord, the God of Israel. He is the God who is in Jerusalem, and let all survivors, in whatever place they reside, be assisted by the people of their place with silver and gold, with goods and with animals, besides free will offsprings for the house of God in Jerusalem."
Okay, so Cyrus the Great is considered the Messiah by the Jews. The Jews are extremely thankful for Cyrus because not only does he allow them to go back to Jerusalem, but he also finances the rebuilding of the temple, okay? But when this happens, when they go back and try to rebuild a temple, the locals get pissed off, okay? Because, like, who are you people? You're stealing our religion. Like what's going on here, okay? And this creates a lot of conflict. That's good for the Persian Empire because they want this conflict, right? As part of their divide and rule strategy, okay? All right.
When the builders laid the foundation of the temple of the Lord, the priests in their vestments were stationed to praise the Lord with trumpets, and the Levites, the son of
the Levites are important. The Levites are actually the priest class of the Israelites, okay? Keep on going.
The sons of Asaph, with cymbals according to the direction of King David of Israel, and they sang responsively, praising and giving thanks to the Lord. For he is good, for his steadfast love endures forever towards Israel. And all the people responded with a great shout when they praised the Lord, because the foundation of the house of the Lord was laid. But many of the priests and Levites and heads of families, old people who had seen the first house on its foundations, wept with a loud voice when they saw this house, though many shouted aloud for joy, so that the people could not distinguish the sound of the joyful shout from the sound of the people's weeping, for the people shouted so loudly that the sound was heard far away.
This is the happiest moment in Jewish history, when they rebuild the temple, okay, what they call the Second Temple. And this is important because the Second Temple was destroyed. And what they want to do now in Israel is build the Third Temple. And this is important because the Third Temple sits on the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is the third holiest site in the Islamic world. So what this Bible is telling us that eventually the Israelis will destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque so that they can build the Third Temple, or what they call the Temple of Solomon, okay? All right, can you continue?
From one?
Yeah, when the adversaries
of Judah and Benjamin heard that the returned exiles were building a temple to the Lord, the God of Israel, they approached Zerubbabel and the heads of families and said to them, "Let us build with you, for we worship your gods as you do."
Okay, so they're saying, we're Israelites just as you guys, okay? We stayed, but you guys left. So actually, we're better than you are, okay? Because we stayed, whereas you left. Okay, keep on going.
"And we have been sacrificing to him ever since the days of King Esarhaddon of Assyria, who brought us here. But Zerubbabel, Joshua, and the rest of the heads of families in Israel said to them, 'You shall have no part with us in building a house to our God, but we alone will build to the Lord, the God of Israel, as King Cyrus of Persia had commanded us.'"
This is really weird, right? You're all Israelites. Why is it that no, we are the true Israelites, you guys are the false Israelites, and so you can't help us? Okay? Why is there this conflict going on? Right? That's strange. And so the only way to understand this is the conflict is part of the imperial strategy. Okay, divide and rule. Keep on going.
Then the people of the land discouraged the people of Judah and made them afraid to build, and they bribed officials to frustrate the plan throughout the reign of King Cyrus of Persia and until the reign of King Darius of Persia.
Okay, so they try to build the temple, but it doesn't really work out because there's so much opposition, right? the Jews who've come back from Babylon, it's like, we're the real Israelites, so only we can touch the temple. No one else can participate. And the others are like, this is wrong. We should all participate in the building of the temple. This is one religion, okay? So it seems as though these Jews in Babylon, they're actually imperial agents who are trying to sow discontent within the region. Okay? Sorry, this is a bit long, okay? But can you try to read?
Okay. This is a copy of the letter that King and can you help me?
Artaxerxes, okay?
Artaxerxes.
Artaxerxes is this great warrior in Persia, okay? Great warrior. Keep on going.
Gave to the priest Ezra, the scribe, a scholar of the text of the commandments of the Lord and his status for Israel.
Okay, so Ezra is one of these Israelites who comes from a family that was exiled to Babylon. Okay, but he's a priest and he's an intellectual. So he is considered actually the creator of the Bible that we have today. Okay, keep on going.
Artaxerxes, king of kings, to the priest Ezra, the scribe of the law of the God of heaven, peace. And now I decree that any of the people of Israel, of their priests or Levites in my kingdom who freely offers to go to Jerusalem may go with you. For you are sent by the king and his 7 counselors to make inquiries about Judah and Jerusalem according to the law of your God, which is in your hand, and also to convey the silver and gold that the king and his counselors have freely offered to the God of Israel, whose dwelling is in Jerusalem, with all the silver and gold that you shall find in the whole province of Babylonia, and with the free will offerings of the people and the priests given willingly to the house of their God in Jerusalem. With this money, then, you shall with all diligence buy bulls, rams, and lambs, and their grain offering and their drink offerings, and you shall offer them on the altar of the house of your God in Jerusalem.
Okay, stop. Okay, this is really important. Okay, this is a letter by King Artaxerxes authorizing Ezra to build the second temple. Okay, why is this important? Because this is called the Balfour Declaration, 1917. What's going to happen is that the British government, Lord Balfour, he writes to Lord Rothschild, who is a Jewish financier, and he says, actually, just read this, okay?
Okay. I have much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of His Majesty's government, the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the Cabinet. His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavors to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation.
Okay, this is almost like the Artaxerxes Declaration, right? You see how in the Bible, Artaxerxes writes a letter to Ezra and says, hey, I authorize you to go back to Jerusalem and build the second temple, right? So what's happening is that they're using the Bible as a script in order to facilitate their geopolitical ambitions. Okay, this is why reading the Bible is important, because once you read the Bible, you understand the Bible, you compare it to historical development, you're able to see the connections. And if you're able to see connections, you can also predict how they will develop over time, okay? So this Babylonian Declaration creates the current nation of Israel, okay, which was founded in 1948. So like before, the nation of Israel was created by the British as part of their geopolitical strategy of dividing and conquering the Middle East. And we'll discuss this later on, okay? But it's really important for you guys to keep in mind. as we move forward.